Good afternoon, and welcome to another Super Secret Project sketch. This is Eric Whalen from Super Secret Project X, and this week we are having no technical issues, which is nice. And I'm looking down, I'm seeing the streaming stuff. It's saying no technical issues. I can stream. It's gonna be a good day. So,
Hello.
I know, right? Well,
It's been a while.
I'm actually thinking that we permanently will just not be doing December because it always just seems to be a terrible time of year to try streaming. Period. But
Our system went on holiday apparently without us.
yeah, well. So, because for Christmas we got ourselves the Avatar: The Last Airbender Blu-ray set. Not entirely sure why I haven't drawn any of these characters. I love these characters. These are some of my just freaking favorite characters ever. I think Last Airbender is probably one of the best shows, for me at least, ever made. I think it was just a great show. Period. Great show.
Yeah. Amazing show.
As you can also tell, I'm a little sniffly because I've been also gargling up goo for the past month, which is awful. So, anyways,
Wasn't it like a 90s kids board game?
probably gargling up goo. Anywho, I'm going to do Kitara today, and hopefully I don't screw her up because I happen to really like Kitara. I think she's a great character. No, I think she's a lot of people. And it's funny. I was at work, and I was like, yeah, one of my favorite characters in Avatar is Kitara, and one of the fellow nerds at work goes is, and then he stopped me and said Toph, and I'm like, ooh, that's tough because I really like Toph too, because it rhymes with tough. I'm like, actually, and I do love Toph a lot. She's a great character, but I think Kitara really, there's more heart to that character, and as it goes, she's strangely enough even tougher than Toph is. And Toph is kind of typically, like stereotypically tough, but Katara's actually like motherly tough. I mean, that's saying something, because
Well, she's been through a bunch of crap. Oh, don't you dare start.
oh, I'm recording. We're gonna have luck one of these days with these recordings. We were doing so good for so long, and then everything just went freak crazy. I'm not sure why.
Something setting-wise is dumb.
Well, I'm sure it seems to always we seem to always have issues, but hopefully this time I got most of the streaming bugs out, which is something I don't like doing.
Check and see what's YouTube telling me
Yeah, for all of the industry out there, normal people need to be able to use this equipment. You've done such a good job at making a lot of this equipment accessible and streaming accessible and the software accessible. But when everything goes down all at once, I tell you, like 2 weeks ago, I didn't have one thing go down. I had Streamlabs go down, I had YouTube go down, I had Twitch go down, and I had Restream go down. All four at the same time, and for four completely different reasons. And so I sat there and I fixed it, and I missed the stream because I was sitting there fixing all the problems. And but I fixed it and I was done. And then the next weekend I'm all ready to stream, and new problems showed up. So I sat there for another couple of hours missing the stream, just trying to get everything up and running. And okay, if I miss a frame or two or a couple glitches on the stream, I'm okay with it because I got it to work, so I'm happy with that. Yeah, that was driving me crazy. I expect machines to do one thing, and that is to function and obey their human masters. unless they become our robotic overlords, then, then it's probably going to have a role reversal thing happening there. But
I don't know if it's a role reversal, then something happened where they no longer obey the human master.
yeah, and at that point in time, I'm going to be completely outgunned, and I'm just going to be like my robotic overlords. Come on in.
Come, Lord Jesus. Or giant meteor, whatever hits first.
There we go. Lower that nose a little bit.
I'm surprised you didn't go for Ira.
I'm going to. Right now, I just want to see if I can get the stream to function all the way through, because the last couple weeks just trying to do what I'm doing right now was like impossible. So it's like I'm getting it. It's happening. I'll work up to more complicated characters later once the stream is proven to me it's not going to freak out.
Fair enough.
Has it been behaving? It seems to be.
Yeah, a little bit of a JPEGing and screen glitching.
Oh, that's fine.
But it's like nothing compared to what it was before. So.
Well, it was completely non-functional before.
Yeah.
That is a hell of a thing to drop on somebody that's just trying to sketch a cartoon.
Yeah. But YouTube seems to be the overall streaming seems to be fine and stuff.
Good.
There doesn't seem to be any glitching there. It's just for some reason going through Twitch here just seems to not be too happy.
Yeah, Twitch is just not the same level of dependability as YouTube is. I wish it was, but it's proven to be a bit of a pain.
Well, let me check the personal Twitch stream here, because maybe we need to adjust something in Twitch too.
Could be. However, I don't know what that would be, considering all the stuff that I said is in Streamlabs. As the software's name leaves my mind entirely. Yeah, that thing, that program, Photoshop, but for streaming.
Yeah, it's weird. It doesn't seem to be glitching on from the restream or anything. It just seems like it just whatever's showing up on our big screen is glitching, but everything else on the mobile stuff seems to be fine. It's not glitching there.
That's probably just our TV then. Well, like I said, I've got a recording onto the hard drive, so in case it screws up again. I hate it when that happens. You just end up going like, okay, for those out there who aren't very busy, I kind of depend upon things just working, I just do. I mean, it's I don't know how else to put it. Things just have to work in order for me to get anything done, because...
Well, that's kind of just that's what life is. Things work and we get things done. That's how life moves on. Stuff doesn't work and we can't get past it, then how are we supposed to keep moving if things don't work?
Yeah, that the last couple weekends have just been... They were just ridiculous. They were just there was a password issue, there was an update issue, there was... I don't even remember all of it. It was just, there was stuff with settings, and they reworked the encoder, and there was... Oh, it was just a mess. It was, you would figure that they would have it kind of go on auto drive and just sort of make sure everything would just function, but instead as I had to actually diagnose problems, and that was frustrating.
Especially when you're not a super tech person, you just want...
No, I'm just enough of a tech person to get this stuff done, but beyond that, it's like, man, I try to be like, a technical guy, but there's only so far I can go before I just start hitting the end of my rope. And
before you start actively praying to the swear gods.
Oh, I love the swear gods.
Offering up offerings to the swear gods.
They get you through the day. They do. I would repeat the swear gods' names, but it's just not the kind of stream that I want to run.
Offering up praises to the swear gods.
Oh, jeez, yeah. I was too. That was getting me mad. I was going like, because it was, the funny thing was 2 weeks ago I like started the stream and I'm like, I started to work on the stream. I'm like, you know what? I'll just make sure everything runs right. I'll start an hour before the stream goes. And I went that hour till the stream was supposed to start, then the hour of the stream, and then I think like a half hour after that, and I was just, and then it started all over again the next weekend. I'm seriously glad this is working. That was driving me crazy. I think I want to drop that back a little bit more. Yeah, I'm so glad. It's so funny. Years ago, when and I think we just accidentally caught it one afternoon when Last Airbender was on TV on Nick. You know, when we had cable and we were forced to watch things at a certain schedule. And I just caught it, and I think it must have still been first season at that point. And I was just I just caught a little bit of it. I'm like, what the heck is this? Like, it was just it completely caught me off guard. I was like, oh, I can't remember if you had seen a little bit of it before or not, but I just remember just sitting there going like this, what is this? This is, of what little I saw, I was like, this is funny. This is, not like Alien, but for America, it was pretty different.
Yeah, I think one of the first times we caught it was right before we left Michigan to move here. Because it came out, I want to say in 2005, and
that sounds about right.
Yeah, and I want to say it was like way like early. Yeah, that we caught like an episode or something. We're like, huh, well, 'cause we had heard about it.
I don't think I'd heard anything about it. I was completely caught off guard.
I remember like seeing a very brief promo for it, and ex-roommate was complaining about that looks too anime-ish. And I'm like, well, we're anime fans. Isn't that supposed to be appealing to us?
Well, I was actually about to comment on how they seem to have taken really great things from the anime style, but then mixed it with American stuff in just the right mix.
Yeah, and we caught like I think a little bit of it, and then when we moved here, we didn't see much of it. And then I think we finally settled down, and it was coming on on a regular basis, and we sat down and watched. Okay, that was actually pretty good. And watched more and more, and we just really got just hooked into it.
Yeah. By the time the Day of Black Sun Part 1 and 2 came out, they were like doing all like a big event kind of thing. That was really cool. That was the last TV event that I remember that meant anything. And before that, I don't even remember. I was like, oh my god, like a TV event. This is like really fun,
When the Seeds of the North Part 1 and 2 came out.
That was good too,
we were like,
yeah.
We gotta wait. And I think, I'm trying to, wasn't it? I think they did they played it all together. So it was a back-to-back special. And we're just like, holy crap.
Oh yeah. Well, the thing was the reason why I went to anime when I was younger, other than it was a ton of fun and I loved seeing stuff from other countries and that kind of thing, is I wanted more out of my cartoons. And with a very tiny number of exceptions, American animation was a joke back in the 90s. It was just like, but when it was good, there was a handful of really good things.
Really good stuff was coming out, but the market was starting to get flooded with let's just put out any and everything, because every single group was trying to make themselves into the next. See, the 90s, they're trying to make themselves into like the next Gargoyles or the next X-Men or.
And there's nothing wrong with those shows, but they also weren't great. Gargoyles was better than X-Men, that's for sure.
X-Men was it was noted because it was the first really good
True.
comic property
But
that
it could have been
stayed,
better, though.
that stayed faithful to a lot of to a good chunk of the original
That's true.
stuff.
That's true.
And I mean, for people like me who that was actually my first foray into the X-Men, because I had heard about them, but I never read any of the comics. I read comics, but I didn't get into X-Men comics
Sure.
and stuff until I
And
actually
X-Men
found the
was
show.
my thing when I was younger, so yeah.
Yeah, so the show actually brought me in, and actually like that was because that was when college hit and stuff, and when I left for college, and I was just like, sweet X-Men comics, and really started getting really into it. But anyway, like the 2000s brought in a lot of just a lot of people. It was technology, animation technology was starting to become a bit more prevalent, and so there was like studios popping up all over the place. It was real, like people were trying to bring TV animation back, because also during that time a lot of the animation or animation studios or animation TV channels were starting to try and get back, and were trying to get to the live action stuff.
Yeah,
So,
that was I thought that was a bad move.
Yeah,
I think a lot of live action for kids, I think the vast majority of it's garbage.
well, it was
I really do.
Yeah, they were trying to follow, because it was a lot of that was started by the Disney Channel, because from what I understand, their thing was a lot of the people who grew up watching their shows were now teenagers and becoming 20-somethings, and so now they wanted to cater to those groups, and they wanted to start making it more teen-based programming. Thus, a lot of the teenager-based shows, iCarly, That's So Raven.
God, those are just terrible.
But a lot of people grew up with a lot of that stuff,
And
they
that's
loved
fine.
it, and that's fine.
But I'm
for
not them.
Yeah,
For me, it was just like,
Yeah,
what
it
the
was-
heck is this garbage?
Yeah, I mean, to me, the best teen-based show that came out of that time period for me from Disney was Kim Possible.
See, and I don't even consider that to be teen-based. That to me is just a good, solid show.
Well, she was a teenager in the show. She was like,
Okay.
yeah, she was 16.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Because to me, I thought you meant by age group of who's watching it, and I
Well,
guess maybe
yes.
that's new. Is that a new thing? Because when I was younger, I watched shows with characters that were my age, characters that were teenagers, and characters that were adults. By the way, all being animated, and I'm just having a hard time getting my head wrapped around. I don't know. Maybe it's other people, but the idea that I'm not going to watch this because these characters are not my age. I didn't
that-
watch cartoons like that.
Well, you're also an animation fan. A lot of people who watched cartoons, because I experienced this personally, after a certain age, you're not supposed to watch this baby stuff anymore.
Yeah, but who cares?
But that's the way a lot of people thought, and that's the way a lot of corporate people perceive the world, because we've seen it, we've heard it, we've read the blogs, we've
Yep.
seen it in our personal
Yeah,
lives.
but
and
they're
that stuff.
tiny, cowardly people.
Well,
Who
they're
cares
all-
what they say?
Well, they're also the ones who decide on what program is being out there. So yes, they may be powerless or cowardly, but hey, they're making all the money, and they're the ones that makes all the decisions on what comes up. Unfortunately. Anyway, but yeah. Anyway, back to the show. There was a lot of good stuff that came out of the 2000s when a lot of people just decided, you know what, let's just make some really good stuff, and thus we got like Avatar.
Well, but see, to me, it wasn't just the animation and just the. To me, there was a fundamental shift in what was happening there. They weren't treating the audience like they were stupid. Like for example, and I liked a lot of the shows, but they weren't great. Like G.I. Joe, I like G.I. Joe quite a bit. But there's also a don't let people think too far involved that I don't like at all. And with Avatar: The Last Airbender, there was stuff in there that for adults I was going like, that is dark. I was like, there's real interesting things happening.
Forgot about one of the really good ones that came out of the 90s too, Batman animated series.
Yeah, that one that is one of the biggest exceptions.
Yeah.
Is there was very little there that I ever thought that they were talking down to me. As as a matter of fact, there was moments when I was watching that, being a later teenager, that I was going like, this is really smart It's not treating me like I'm a stupid kid.
Yep.
There's even some moments where you're just like, oh, like wow, okay, that was much more than I was expecting. You know?
They had just so many issues that a lot of shows were either they didn't want to touch because it's a cartoon.
Yeah,
or,
I don't get that.
Yeah, and well, it's that mentality of cartoons are for kids and kids need to be entertained. They didn't put it into an all ages factor, and Batman the Animated Series made it a truly all ages factor. 'Cause, I mean, still one of my favorite episodes is the one about with the character Baby Doll, and I know I probably mentioned that before, but man, that whole the near the end where she realizes and what she is, and that whole basically soliloquy that she says.
Yep.
You could see the character shift, and the way they did the lighting and the pause they did when she just literally the light shifted and she looked up and she went from being this cutesy little girl character who had the
that was creepy. That was really well done.
My mind is blanking on the actual disease name, but she went from being this cutesy little girl character to this old tired woman in like less than a half second, just with the subtle shifting of the light. Her just from looking down, looking up, and you can just see she was just tired, and oh man, and I'm like, that was amazing. I mean, that was like one of the key like moments. I'm just like, well, before then also, but that right there is one of my favorite episodes, just for that whole that moment, just like, this is more than just a cartoon.
Oh, and that's what I mean is Batman the Animated Series is one of the exceptions, and you know, when we were in college, more and more exceptions were starting to come out, but they were in severe minority, where Japan was just rolling over us when it came to good show after good show, including the bad shows that were at least not treating you like you were stupid. They were just they might not have been great, but at least you're going like, at least this isn't designed for 2-year-olds being sold to 14-year-olds, which is usually what a lot of American cartoons for the longest time was doing, because I guess they think that the American population is filled with idiots, and I don't like to look at people that way. I mean, if somebody's an idiot, okay, they're an idiot, but I don't immediately walk up to a group of people and go like, I have to talk down to them because they're stupid. And that's how a lot of cartoons I felt were being made, was that's the first thing they wanted to do. Don't make it too complicated because they won't get it. It's like, well, you make it complicated so it stretches their mind, so they build the muscle between their ears, you know, blah, blah, blah. And when I was watching Avatar The Last Airbender, there was legitimately moments where I was going like, holy crap, they really developed a great world and interesting characters, and they made characters legitimately unlikable. Like, it still kills me to this day how really misogynistic Sokka was, and then it didn't take them too long to pull him out of that dumb little world he was living in. Just so, and those episodes are really good. They weren't pandering or talking down to people. They were just beautifully written episodes where they were going like, dude, you know, women can do these things too. And then it didn't take them long to go like, oh, I'm an idiot. You know what I'm saying? Oh, but yeah. There we go. But I think the thing that, one of the things that really got me about Avatar is you really have these moments where you're laughing really hard at what's going on. And then there's moments in the series that's legitimately completely the opposite, like so heartbreaking and so painful and ugly. I mean, ugly. There was moments in Avatar that I was going like, are they going here? And especially with Kitara, that's one of the reasons why I liked her so much. Is, I mean, the fact that at you watch an episode of it, you're like, oh, that was pretty good, blah, blah, blah. The moment they took her on a revenge run to go murder the man who killed her mother, I was just sitting there on the couch, just my mouth was hanging open, because it was so well done, and it was so dark and so ugly, and they were so not hiding what was happening, and I was just going like, "This is good," like, this is the way things are supposed to be done. Tighten that up a little bit there. There we go. I'll get the little hair loopies in there. Alright, just trying to figure out a good way of doing this without covering her up too much. Because I love the hair loopies, but you can clearly cover the face way too much with them. There we go. Alright. There we go. That feels about right. Yeah, I'm trying to remember my thought process as well, because obviously Last Airbender came out. It wasn't yesterday; it's quite a while ago now. But man, I just the art direction, the character design, the stuff that they did with the characters. And the story. That's what really got me, is when I started watching and I was like, oh, this is better than a lot of the sort of schlock. And then I'm trying to remember what the first moment was, because there must have been a moment where I went, wait, what? Because I remember the big ones, like the blood-bending bit and Jet dying, and, just... I mean, they did stuff tastefully, but it was still very disturbing at moments, and they really did a great job of just making sure characters not only had a funny side so you could laugh and be on the adventure and all that sort of stuff, but they made darn sure that the characters had enough weight to them that there was unpleasant things in their personality, and there would be real moments that tested them. And they none of them were perfect. I was working on an illustration last night and this morning, and I just had it playing in the background. And there's this, it's when they bump into the pirates for the first time, and there's this whole moment where they're like, oh, stealing is wrong, unless it's from pirates, then it's okay. And then there's the next episode was, I fixed the whole problem by lying to people. It was just like, it wasn't these stupid moments where they were treating people like dumb kids. They were like, no, the audience is smart enough to get it. It's okay. And I was just sitting there really laughing. I was going like, oh, that's really great. Because I'm sure nobody thinks about it, but okay, if you're old enough, and I hate pulling that on people, but if you're old enough, you remember how BS American cartoons, and the thing is, I love American cartoons, but there's a bunch of people clearly having way too much control, telling the artists what they can and can't do, and I do not agree with that at all. I think I put some of the anime highlights in there. Anyways. But they used to just be, at times, insultingly stupid, or they would never go, like my favorite bit, you can't say the word kill, they're going to go out and get killed, they're going to kill somebody, blah, 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 you can't do that, you can't say that, it'll make kids into murderers, or something insane like that. I could never quite figure that out. And so they would always say things like, "I will destroy them," blah blah blah, and then you go like, "It means the same thing." So what does it matter if you can't use the word kill or not? It's just so stupid. And in Avatar, there was entire episodes where they're like, we're gonna get killed. We're gonna kill this guy. Blah, 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 blah. And I just go like, thank you. I'm asking to not being to be treated like a 5-year-old. And I'm saying that realizing that I'm not saying that these are adult cartoons, because I don't want children to be raised on shows that will just, that are like, I don't know, they're like bubble packed, they're safe for the children. And you just go like, kids are eventually going to end up in the real world, because kids, strangely enough, turn into adults. And so I kind of go like, does it actually help kids to do that? And in my opinion, I don't think it does. I really don't think it helps to take kids and, make sure everything is nice and safe for them, and then they get out in the real world and it's like total culture shock or something. And it's like, no, it just, I mean, don't put horrible things on TV just to put them on TV. But Avatar did it right, where it was approaching sensitive subject matters in a very mature way, and that's what I really love, because the stories were still good. They weren't like, now Billy, it's they're mad at each other, so someone might get hurt. It's like, no, they were just square out going to be like Toph, which is why I loved Toph. She clearly really enjoyed putting the hurt in on people, and the kids at home were forced to realize that she is not this nice, sparkly, perfect little girl, which is why she's awesome. Figures all weekend my nose wasn't running, and now that I get in front of the camera here, it decides to make me sniff and snort all the time. My bad. Sorry about that. That up a little bit. Okay. Now I'm adding a couple more lines than Kitara's design normally has, because I'm not trying to do an exact duplication. However, I definitely want to make sure this looks like Kitara, because I don't think I'm going to be able to improve on her character design any. I'm going to put a little detail here and there where I kind of prefer things to be, but I really love the character design work in the Avatar stuff. What I adore, and it's funny because there's a lot of really beautifully done characters, and this is going to sound funny because it's actually easy making characters cool or pretty or whatever. That's actually not hard. That's actually really easy because everyone's used to certain things, and then you do those certain things and blah blah blah. What I loved in Avatar actually was the fact that they took Sokka, which is one of the blandest, most typical guy-looking guys possible. There's nothing about him that's particularly anything, and just turned him into an amazing character. And his super simple character design just worked so well. Whereas Kitara, for example, they put like little hair loopies on there, and they gave her a certain kind of interesting details, and she was a pretty girl, and blah blah blah. Sokka was just a dude. He was just a typical. You just look at him and go like, "Oh, that's kind of neat." Blah blah blah, yada yada. And then they just turned him into one of the greatest characters on the show. Um, and I think Aang is actually another one because Aang is a very nice design, but it's really simple, and it just looks so good because it's so simple. And you look at a lot of other stuff where they just go so over the top with just Johnny Test, for example. Uh, and I'm not judging the show; it's not my show, so I'm not going to be all like, "Oh, Johnny Test." I don't hate it either, but it's just. But I look at it and it just he had details on him that were unnecessary. It was like they were trying to make a, this is a radical kid or whatever, and it just was going like, ugh. So the character design didn't do anything for me because it was like I've seen this before. Nothing against the guy that or lady, I'm not. I think it's a guy that made it. I mean, really, I'm not trying to judge. I just go like, just the design for him. As a matter of fact, I liked his twin sisters better. I thought his twin sisters were actually a nicer design. Um, but there was not a single character on Avatar that I looked at and went, "Oh, why did they do this?" or blah. Ugh. No, every single time I looked at it, I was like, "Oh, it feels like it's exactly what it needs to be," and that's just good for them. Because I'm not saying like every single thing they did was a home run, but every single thing they did was good. Like we were talking today while I was illustrating this morning, and Avatar was running, and Lashida was on the couch going like, "I just realized there's no bad episodes." She's like, "There's episodes that I like less, but there's no bad episodes," and I'm like, I think you're right. I'm trying to think of an episode that I don't like, and I can't. I can't think of one. I think of ones that I don't like as much, but I just keep going like, "Man, that was great, that was great, that was fun, they did this, that was exciting, that was funny, that was dangerous, what a neat idea. Oh, look at this cool environment, look at what they did with this character, blah, blah, blah." I just never got tired of it. I can make I have a couple questions when it came to Korra, but overall I loved Korra, but Last Airbender was like about as close to perfection as you can get. For me, at least. I'm sure other people out there are going like, "There's not enough sweaty meat dudes punching each other." And I'm not making fun of those shows. I happen to like those shows, but we all know those shows. And kind of Avatar went out of its way to not do sweaty meat men punching each other. I'm so glad the streaming equipment is working. That was getting stressful. I haven't had a chance to really sit down and do a good sketch in front of the camera in a while. I think it's been like almost a month because of all the this and that and the holidays and yada yada. It's just so funny. I remember some people reacting to it. I remember what Lashida had said earlier. "Oh, it looks too much like anime," and I'm going like, well, firstly, what does that matter? Who cares? If it's good, it's good. It shouldn't matter. And so it takes some cues from anime. So what? Um, like I remember one guy I had heard he was at a comic shop. He was like, "It's too much like the Power Rangers," and I go like, "That just shows me that you never watched the show." Maybe with the exception of the end of the second season of Korra, which had giant monster stuff in it. But other than that, I think that was the second season. I'm fairly certain that was the second season. Oh well. I'm going to rewatch Korra soon, so. It's like I like how they took lessons from anime. Like you can clearly, and I've done it a little bit more because I kind of have a, you know, a little bit of a that influence in my own stuff. Not a ton anymore, but a bit. I can still do it. But you can still see a little bit of that influence in Avatar. But like in like this right here, this mouth expression, I have never seen in anime. I've never seen it. And I mean I've seen similar, but not drawn like this. And they just took it and they just created this nice style. And is it a perfect style? No such thing. Is it a style that worked real well for this? Oh yeah, yeah. No, it worked beautifully. And I'm actually kind of glad they kind of kept using the style. I think they did it in Voltron, Defender of the Galaxy, and hopefully they'll kind of keep using it and keep like evolving it. I still think it needs some evolution, but overall I think it's a really great style. Ooh. Yeah, actually, I think that one turned out pretty well. It's not perfect, but looks like her. Pretty happy with that. You gotta be happy when at least it looks right. Ish. Sketch, leave me alone. Alright. Alright, well. I think we're good for today. We will catch you next week. Hopefully the streaming problems will not continue. I don't think they will. It looks good, but I got ambushed this last month, so who knows? Everyone have yourself a good week. I'm gonna close that on down. See if I can get everything packed into my box. Probably not. See if I'm lucky. See if I'm lucky. Am I? Oh, lucky. All right. Everyone have yourself a good